you for the introduction.
Will now be recorded.
All right, I think the recording's on now. Thanks for the introduction, Mike, and thanks for everybody for joining today. We've got a really, I think, a special kind of lunch and learn session today, all about getting into kind of the details and really kind of some tangible recommendations on how small research agencies and consultancies can actually think about kind of investing in a research technology stack. This is something that we see as kind of a challenge, I think, for a lot of agencies, research consultancies, is how much do I invest in my own tech? How much do I use the client's tech? How do I kind of make sense of this all in terms of budgeting and resourcing? And that's really the goal of our conversation today, is to give you some actionable tips and advice. I'm the managing director here at QuestionPro in the UK. Obviously, we're a little biased at QuestionPro. We are an online survey software platform and generally kind of a research technology solution. But at the same time, we've also brought in Jim and Duncan here from 56 Degree Insight. They're really on the other side of the table with you. They are a small research consultancy, a two-man shop. They're a customer of QuestionPro. And I really thought that maybe bringing them into this conversation to talk about their journey would help everybody else in the ICG kind of wrap their head around how to think about investing in research technology. Jim, Duncan, thanks for being here today.
Pleasure. Hello, everybody. Nice to see a few names that I recognize on the call.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a couple out there too. We've got a good session today, and do feel free to kind of put your questions in the chat. I think one of the nice things about these lunch and learn sessions is that we can make them really interactive. We can get your questions answered. And again, really the goal of today is to kind of hear from Jim and Duncan on their journey. And you know, these guys are always kind of very nice to be an open book and kind of do the ask me anything in terms of how they approach things. So take this opportunity to learn from them. But I will just kind of get started by explaining a little bit about QuestionPro, and then we'll focus most of the time on Jim and Duncan's story at 56 Degree Insight. But just for a little bit of background, if you haven't heard about us before, QuestionPro is kind of a global online survey software platform. We've got lots of different products and solutions to really help in almost any kind of research case, methodology, project. We can really help to enable that for you, for your customers, your clients, or really anybody in the research space. We're pretty big. We've got a very big global footprint, about 3.5 million users worldwide. You'll see all of the locations that we are here around the world, and you'll see some of the brands at the bottom in terms of the customers that we serve. But I think really the point of this conversation is that it's not just the big brands. We've got so many customers like the ICG community, small 1-2 person shops in this 3.5 million users that we have around the world. And again, that's going to be the focus of the conversation today, how we can help you. Just to kind of give you a sense, you can see here our platform is really big, really wide. We've got kind of the core online survey software, and there's kind of gradients to that in terms of how sophisticated you could be, along with all of this other stuff that you can use, whether it's live polls or offline apps for in-person interviews. We've got the CX platform, the workforce platform, communities for managing your own panel. We also have external panel and a whole wide variety of products and services. Keep this in the back of your mind as Jim and Duncan tell their story, because I think for any small consultancy, it's kind of always a matter of how do you ramp into this, right? This isn't something that you're going to go in and say, yeah, we need all of this today. Most likely, it's going to be kind of a stepwise approach, and that's really where I think Jim and Duncan can give us some clarity on how they approach this problem and kind of their approach to investing in research technology to begin with. So let's jump right into it with Jim and Duncan. Jim and Duncan, maybe you could start by just telling us a little bit of the background of 56 Degree Insight, your history, what it is that you do. Maybe that'd be a good starting point.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Asim. I'll go first, and then Duncan, you jump in. Yeah, we formed, it's just Duncan and myself. We were both managing partners of 56 Degree Insight. We formed the company in 2019, a year before the lovely pandemic came along. So we managed to get a year's trading in before any of that happened, which was good. We're ex-Kantar. We spent most of our careers at Kantar under various guises, various brands, and so on. And a few of the people on this call I know share that similar story. We had wanted to form our own company for a number of years, but needed the impetus to do it. And when Kantar decided that the Scottish office was no longer part of their future strategy, and that they were closing the office, which Duncan and I were jointly managing at the time, we saw it as an opportunity for ourselves to create our own company. Frankly, it's the best thing that ever happened in work life anyway. Best thing that ever happened for us, in that we're now doing the stuff we really enjoy, getting our hands dirty, doing surveys, probably in common with just about everybody else on this call. So one of the benefits of being small is you do everything, and that might be seen as a disadvantage by some, but it sure beats managing loads of staff, which was where we were finding ourselves latterly at Kantar, which, much though I enjoyed that part of the job, it wasn't really what I joined to do. It's all about, for me, it's all about insight. It's about understanding, for helping our clients to understand their customers, their potential customers, and so on. And we do all sorts of research. We do quant and qual, but we're predominantly quant, but we do qual as well. We do depth interviews and focus groups and so on, often as an adjunct to a quant study. But we work across a range of different sectors. My natural home is in tourism. I've been a tourism researcher all of my working life. I started work at the Scottish Tourist Board, now Visit Scotland, many years ago on the client side, and a lot of our clients now are in tourism, but by no means all of them. We also work across food and drink, across utilities. We do population surveys, we do customer experience, we do brand tracking, we do campaign evaluation, and so on. All the stuff that everybody on this call will be familiar with. So yeah, that's it. Duncan, have I missed anything about our story?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. Yeah, and yeah, I think the key thing really is that we're loving being at the front, on the front line again of market research, not sort of being the people who don't just sell projects, but actually work with clients and partner with them and are able to deliver the insights, and working with some quite small clients nowadays again, which is often the most rewarding.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I know that that's a story that most people on this call can resonate with, right? I know a lot of folks here have graduated from a larger market research agency or in-house and kind of decided, you know what, let's go strike it out on our own, and are doing exactly what Jim and Duncan are doing. Like, hey, the goal isn't to build some 50-person agency. It's let's keep it small. Let's do the work that we love, and work with really great clients at the end of the day. But that's I think the question that everybody is facing on this call, right? How do you keep it small and make the right investments to really power that business, make your life easier, and deliver the right solutions to your clients? Jim, Duncan, maybe we could start there. Like, how did you make that decision? You know, when you started to strike it out on your own, 2-person shop, to actually go and invest in survey software. I know that, that original investment wasn't with QuestionPro, it was a different survey provider, but you still had to make that decision. I think a lot of people on this call are kind of like, well, do I invest in my own survey and research technology, or do I just kind of use whatever the client is using? How did you approach that decision, and why did you kind of feel like it was right for you to say, you know what, let's put some money behind getting our own licenses, our own tools?
Yeah, no, I can probably answer that one. Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a new world, and whilst we'd worked in market research for many years, largely it'd been with big agencies where you've got a DP department, you've got a scripting team, you don't really need any of this software, you certainly don't decide which types to use. So, but we quickly realized, the types of work we're going to be doing, the clients we're going to be working with, often it would be using, client sample, their databases, business to business surveys, but also consumer surveys. So we needed an ability to sort of to run surveys in-house in that way. I mean, we also realized we might work with, panel agencies and so on who might do that for us. We wanted that flexibility. So the way in which we chose at that stage, initial stage, money was a key thing. Budgets were just set up. We were a bit nervous about, what revenue would look like down the line, but we knew we needed to invest in something. So price was probably the top of the list of things we thought about. And also in choosing the platform that we went with at that point, it was kind of harking back to, oh, what did I use before I was at Kantar back in the 1990s when I worked for another research agency? And so we went with the solution. And we worked with it for a year or two, and it kind of did what we wanted, but often it was a lot of work. It didn't always do things we wanted to. It looked dated. It still looked about the same as it had in the 1990s when I'd last used it. And I think that was kind of increasingly a bit of an issue. So clients would say, oh, could you get this to look good on a mobile phone? And be, well, not sure about this. Or could we do this type of question? I've seen this done in other surveys, like, not really. So we realized at that point, we probably need to spend a bit longer actually looking at the other options out there. We'd become a bit more savvy, a bit more conscious of the types of things that we need survey software to do, and it was more than just the basics. And hence we ended up looking at QuestionPro and a number of other options at that point. And that's when we sort of first signed up with the sort of the basic version initially, the sort of lowest cost version, because even that was a big step up, I think, from what we'd been looking at that point. Just being able to do what should be was really a requirement at that stage, but also went a bit further than we'd been expecting at that stage.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, and I think you're kind of highlighting two I think key points that will resonate with this audience. One being, hey, cost is crucial, right? We can't just go out there and spend some big amount of money right out the gate, right? We've got to make sure that we're kind of scaling up and going one step at a time. And ease of use is the other one, right? Where we don't have this big scripting team or DP team anymore, right? To kind of make all these optimizations and changes. It's kind of two people. When you come in and you script something, it's got to work. It's got to be easy. It's got to be straightforward. And that's something that at QuestionPro has kind of always been in our ethos since we started in 2005. We've always had a free version. Any of you can go to questionpro.com, sign up for that free version, really see the ease of use and how easy it is to put things together. And then when you are kind of ready, we've got those steps up for you, right? So that kind of first license starts around £1,000 per year. We can talk about that one a little bit more in depth on the next slide, and then talk a little bit about that progression. But Jim, Duncan, when did you actually decide that you needed the software? Like even that with that first vendor, was it kind of right out the gate when you set up the consultancy? You said, you know what, we need some survey software. We got to start building out this Scottish tourism index, and that's going to be the way that we kind of bring on clients. Or did you wait until you had a few clients, a few real projects before you went and made that investment?
I can't remember the exact order, if we actually won a job and then thought we better get some software to run this job, or if we thought the other way around. It seems a long time ago now, but essentially when we set up the company, we listed out all the things that we were going to need in terms of we needed an accountant, we needed all the practical things that work in the background that we never needed before as part of a big agency. So, and one of the things there for us was survey software. There was also analysis software that we needed to think about as well. So it was probably all part of the same decision making. I know when we ran our first job using the previous platform that we used, it was fine. It did the job for us. And initially, I think actually quite a few of the jobs we ran initially, we were subcontracting, the online field work to a Dynata, a Yonder, a Kantar, or whatever. Increasingly now, we are taking as much of that in-house as we can. Obviously, not to the extent that we're doing absolutely everything, but if we can reduce our out-of-pocket costs, then that makes a lot of sense. And that's where we felt a little bit that our hands were tied with the previous software we had. We were keen to work with the Cint platform and buy our own sample, but script our own questionnaires. And the previous stuff we were doing, honestly, the thought of scripting a questionnaire, it was like the old days where you thought, right, we'll get the questionnaire agreed with the client, and but then we need to script it, and you sort of put it off to a certain extent, and then you just go in for it, and it worked. It was fine. That's what we liked about QuestionPro, and I rather rashly said in a previous one of these sessions with Asim that I was now enjoying scripting again. And I think I still stand by that in a way. I really do find that the QuestionPro platform gives us so much more flexibility, so much more efficiencies around scripting a questionnaire. So much so that I would previously have always scripted a questionnaire, probably in Word, and shared it with the client back and forth until we're happy with it. Now what we tend to do is we script it immediately into the QuestionPro software, and obviously you can extract that as a Word. I think it's a rich text format, export. So you can send to the client the link to the draft questionnaire, the first draft of it, as well as a Word version that they can put their comments on. That saves so much time. It just feels so much easier and quicker. You're not doing two stages. Or two or three stages. You're not designing the Word and then doing the scripting and then making changes to the script. You're doing it all in one go, and it makes life so much easier and so much more efficient for us. I can't remember what your original question was, it seems.
No, but that's such good insights there, nonetheless, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing is, hey, there is a cost for this, right? You've kind of got to decide where in your life cycle as a consultancy you're going to bring this on. But a lot of this is also saving costs and saving time, right? I hear that story so often with research consultancies and agencies. I mean, we roughly kind of think that agencies and consultancies in the research space are spending somewhere around 20 to 40% of their incoming project revenue right back out to sample, scripting, data processing, and the rest. And by bringing this in-house and doing it on your own, you've instantly increased that margin, right? Instead of going to all of those other partners and having to kind of bring them in on these projects. And when you've got a license, you're now able to amortize that cost against many different projects, right? Instead of kind of bringing in maybe a 20K project and then spending 5K on the survey, now you can spend 5K for the whole year. And you can use that on all of your different projects as you kind of go forward. So I think some really good tips and insights as to how people can think about the model. Where does it make sense to kind of start bringing in those licenses? But let's keep going and talk a little bit about that kind of first license that you brought on with QuestionPro. I think you guys took a really nice measured approach to say, hey, we want to start small and we kind of want to grow. We'll see where things take us. Tell us a little bit about that first step when you kind of signed up for the advanced license. What were kind of the big check boxes in terms of functionality that you were looking for, and how far did that license kind of get you until maybe it made sense to do the next step?
Yeah, I can take this one, and Jim chip in. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, as I said, initially we used the initial license because it did what we wanted it to do, but we were sort of increasingly doing quite often a lot of branding comms related work. One client, for example, we have up here is ScotRail, who were like, it would be quite nice if we could do this or that and the other. So things like, for example, we're doing a survey of maybe 1,000 Scots, but we've got quite a few different adverts that we want to test. But we're thinking it'd be quite nice if we could sort of split the sample, a third, see one, a third see another, third see another, that kind of thing. But then randomize who saw it, kinds of things that we know we would have done back in the day at Kantar, perhaps with a scripting team behind us. But then we look at QuestionPro and actually go, oh, we can do that. That is possible with the next license up. Or also, again, branding comms related, some of the types of questions in there, like sort of heat maps sort of ways that can sort of highlight different elements of a communication or an advert or a piece of collateral. So essentially, we sort of saw a few what were originally nice to have and start to think these would actually be really good for some of the projects we're doing. Recognize though, but there is a higher price to pay for that. But then we made that evaluation against, well, how much is the value of these jobs? How much is the value of loyalty from this client and their additional satisfaction from actually going a bit beyond just the sort of, the brief, by adding in some of these nice features. And that kind of drove our decision. Actually, let's take the next step up and upgrade to that version. And I think we also looked at the financials and said, well, if we add on a small margin to each of these jobs where the client's getting more, that will pay for the license fairly quickly.
Makes sense. And I think there's a few things that everybody can kind of see in these screenshots to get a sense for how easy it is to develop these surveys, even just on the advanced license, right? And these guys talked a little bit about mobile optimization. You can see the surveys are mobile optimized right out of the box. You can see little things like MPS, for example. You don't have to do any sort of calculations on the back end. It's automatically calculating your MPS score default in the question type itself. You can really make some nice, surveys like this pretty quickly. Duncan, Jim, gut check on this survey. How long did it take you to set this up and script it in QuestionPro?
That's one of my ones, Scotland's Viewpoint. It's a bit of a tracker, that one. We do it every quarter, so we're never really starting it from scratch. We always change the heading photograph just to keep it nice and fresh, and a lot of the questions remain the same. Some of them change each time. I think after we'd agreed the questions that were going in, that probably took maybe 45 minutes to script from using the previous version template, basically. Very, very quick to do. I mean, the beauty, it's not drag and drop as such, because you don't drag things across, but it's literally like that. You choose your type of question, and you click the box and it appears there. You can bulk edit it. You can look at all the category, all the answer options, and you can just literally copy and paste them from another document in there, and they each appear in a separate line. Similarly with columns, you can do the same thing. You can randomize their order. You can always have one start, or randomize some of them. It's all very, very easy and very simple to do. The thing that took us longest to get our heads around, but we have now, is the sort of routing elements. As you can imagine, routings can be quite complex, and if you want a separate question, if you want to have a separate page per question, there's slightly different rules required around how the way you set up the routing. You've got to think about that. But actually, once you've got your head around it, it's really quite simple. And one other thing I should say, we have spoken to our help person that's dedicated to us by QuestionPro. We can email him at any point, and very quick at getting back to us, and often solves our problems for us. I mean, there was an issue a few months ago, I think, where SPSS files weren't copying over correctly, and I got in touch with him. SPSS format, I should say. So we're saving our survey, all our data in SPSS format. We then analyze it in Q, which is an SPSS alternative, if you like. And we noticed that there's one or two codes were missing. Got in touch with the chap, I can't remember his name, sorry, but we got in touch with him. Within a couple of hours, he had actually fixed the whole thing for us. There was an issue around in that version, which has since been sorted, needless to say. He very quickly did the export for us and said, look, there's your SPSS file. So it was all very, even when things don't go quite the way you want it, or if you need a little bit of advice, we've got that on hand as well. But the actual scripting experience is really, really simple, and it looks great whether it's on mobile, iPads or PCs and laptops. It automatically, I mean, I know most programs do this, but it's very clearly device agnostic, and it works really, really well for us.
Makes sense. And that's a good point too. With QuestionPro, you kind of get dedicated customer success in your region that's kind of working 9 to 5 in these UK hours. So that person is dedicated. They know your surveys. And frankly, when you are a small consultancy, again, you don't have that scripting team, that DP team. It's nice to have somebody that comes with the software you can bounce ideas off of. You can kind of have them get hands-on and help you. Just real quick, why don't we just have a quick kind of a few minutes on the research edition and kind of why you guys decided to go to the next level, and then we can open it up for Q&A here. But Jim, Duncan, maybe you could just touch on what were some of those kind of check boxes or key features that you decided, you know what, let's even go for the top end version and take on the research edition.
I mean, there are the sort of different types of questions that I mentioned earlier that were quite good for the marketing evaluation stuff we're doing, so sort of the heat spot and so on types. Also, the links that you get from the survey, the fact you could customize them a bit more. So your survey link, your HTML link could actually sort of be more sort of specifically tailored to the survey. And also something that we've not touched on really, but is a good point as well, as the dashboard. So within QuestionPro, you can set up a dashboard with your results as they come in live. So the ability to be able to set up multiple dashboards, so you could have a detailed one for certain clients and a sort of headline responses and just sort of quotas achieved for others. So that was a nice touch as well that we've used with our clients. So I think that's some of the key ones. I don't know, Jim, if there's others that you can think of.
No, I think they're the key ones. I mean, one thing, just I'll make sure I say it in case I don't get the opportunity. You rightly, Asim, touched on the point that most of us, when we're making decisions around the software we use, the first thing you think about is price, because obviously we're trying to minimize costs and so on. I think the point you made is really important. It's the value that's important more than the cost. I mean, to be blunt, we could probably choose a cheaper solution than QuestionPro. We could probably choose a cheaper solution than Q. However, it's how all these different software packages integrate together efficiently that is most important to us. And again, I say we're working with the likes of Pure Spectrum and Cint and so on, and making sure that they integrate with panel providers as well. And this is where we've seen the real benefits, I think, from QuestionPro and these other programs as well. They all work very, very seamlessly together, meaning that we're wasting a lot less time. So even if something costs a little bit more, and it's not a huge amount more, but you more than get that value back by the savings you're making in time and effort elsewhere. I just wanted to make that point. I think integration is really important. I think that's where QuestionPro is really strong.
And you spend that time with your client or doing the things that you enjoy the most, which is, presenting the results, interpreting them, so on. So it all works.
Walking the dog.
Yeah, walking the dog. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this has been super helpful, I think, for everybody here on the session. But I do want to give everybody a chance to do some Q&A. So, Mike, why don't I let you jump in and we can tackle maybe 1 or 2 questions with the time we have left.
Yeah, great. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Asim and Duncan and Jim. I didn't see any questions in the chat yet. I had one myself. You picked up on something quite early on, Duncan, mentioning about B2B and what we'd be possibly seeing, depending on the type of work you're doing. You could be seeing like slightly different methodologies. So you could be seeing some online interviews in a quant scenario. You could be seeing some telephone interviews, and then you could maybe be seeing a hybrid. I don't know, Jim and Duncan, whether you've used that, and Asim, from your point of view, how would you kind of handle that stuff in QuestionPro? Is it kind of 3 different things, or is it one thing?
I mean, I can quickly say what we do in terms of B2B using QuestionPro. We have a number of sort of trackers of business, or quarterly barometer type surveys. So with those ones, we've got a client database of businesses in their area, and we go out to them and we get good levels of response and engagement. And I think QuestionPro's help with that because it looks better, it's more appealing, even things like the images and the sort of ease of use. So we use that just purely online there. And the other thing we've done actually is almost like using QuestionPro instead of a form filling exercise. So it's actually a piece of more consultancy work we're doing with about 20 businesses. Actually, there's a screenshot from it where our client said, right, we need to gather certain information from these organizations that we're going to be providing advice services to. Let's do an Excel and send it out. Then they'll send it back. Then we said, no, let's do this through QuestionPro. It's not a survey as such, but it's a set of open-ended questions and some tick boxes around the business type that we've used instead. And this is, small number of businesses, but then we go and have a consultation with them. So it's kind of supported that. And then we're doing that consultation over Zoom, but we've got all that data compiled through the QuestionPro platform.
Great. I'll throw it. Has anybody else got any questions they want to ask or they want to put in the chat before we finish up? I'm seeing everyone's still on mute, so I'm guessing not. But that's good timing. So Lucy, who's not on today, will be pleased with my effort at trying to organise this and round it down to finishing at 1:30. So thank you again, Asim, Jim, and Duncan. To everyone else, I'm going to stop the recording fairly soon and end the session. The recording will be available within a day or 2, and it will be available on the website and through the usual kind of marketing mails we get from Lucy. I won't say any reminders of future events because I'm not up to date on what other things we've got planned this week in the ICG. But thank you everyone again for joining, and see you again soon.
Thanks everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank
Take care.
you. Thanks very much.